Well, Lean In book came out in 2013. I went to a conference, the Academy of Management conference in the US in 2014. And at that conference, my co-author and colleague, Savita Kumra, commented on how surprised we were that in just about every single session, people were bringing in Lean In into the discussion. We were surprised that Lean In was getting so much airtime at what is basically an academic conference because it's non-academic source of information. It's a popular book. We were also surprised at how popular this book is. By then it had sold thousands of copies. Why is it resonating with so many women when the focus is on women, on fixing the women? And we as researchers are decades ahead of that fix the women kind of approach to solve this scarcity of women in leadership problem. The paper is divided into about 3 parts. In the first part, we compare and contrast the research literature with popular literature. So we do that by going back 50 years. We cover research between 1967 to about 2016. And in doing so, we actually identified 3 periods in the literature. We found 3 distinct periods in the 5 decades that we looked at. The first decade we called the Fix the Women period. The second we called the Fix the Organization period because there was an increasing focus on what organizations were doing to remove barriers to women's advancement. And the last and third period, which focused basically in the late 90s and the 2000s, we called the Fix the Environment period because it focused on national culture, on legislation, on things that governments and agencies could do to facilitate and remove the obstacles to women's participation in leadership. So basically, those are the 3 periods in research. And what surprised us is that books such as Lean In take us back to the first period, to the Fix the Women period. So the question arises, why? Why is it resonating with women and men if it's taking us back decades? The surprising thing is that it's resonating with women more so than with men. Men traditionally had a greater tendency to ascribe women's slower advancement in management to women. And women have had a greater tendency to ascribe it to factors that are outside their control. We concluded that the reason for that is because they provide information to women and they empower women to take control of their own lives. They give women hope, they offer hope that there is something that they can do that is going to change the status quo. The next question then arises is, so is individual action really going to change the status quo? And we, after examining this question, our answer is that maybe individual action nowadays will bear more fruit than in the past because there's an increased social awareness of gender inequity in leadership that didn't exist before. However, we caution that individual action alone is not going to remove women's barriers to advancement. Organizations, people in general, and governments, society will also have to contribute to solving this conundrum that we have been working on for about, for half a century. I definitely think that governments can play a stronger role here. This is not an issue that is going to be solved quickly, and it has to have sustainable solutions. So solutions that are going to be long-term. I would say, for instance, that government can make gender studies or equivalent compulsory at school. Governments can also use the media in ways that they already use for other social issues like family violence, to show that gender equity in leadership is beneficial for everybody, to show that men and women have got the necessary skills and capabilities and they complement each other. So everything that I'm suggesting is not particularly novel. I'm borrowing from what the government perhaps is already doing with other social issues. And I'm borrowing from what's happening in other parts of the world. So if other governments can do it, we can do it too.